So as we talk about risk, one of the things it's always been a challenge in organizations is how do you get the information out of the risk analyst's hands and out of their analysis and communicate those results up through the organization to executives where that information can be used for better decision making across the organization. And so one of the ideas we've been working towards is this idea of project risk intelligence, right? So what does that mean? Well, in many organizations, they have some sort of project dashboard, right, where they keep track of all their projects, they keep track of the status of those projects, how they're performing, work done to date, key milestones, etc. Most of the time, they've got some view into risk, probably through a qualitative risk register, where they're assessing risk as having some sort of probability and impact on a scale of low, medium, and high, etc. Right? But it's difficult to make decisions with that information because it's all qualitative. It's kind of subjective in nature, and you don't really understand what the impact of that risk is against your project. So one of the things we've been discussing and kind of talking about is how can we leverage the results from our risk analysis to better communicate these results with executives. Well, we've come up with this kind of a very simple dashboard you see here on the screen. What it shows is basic information about a project, right? So here we have a dashboard of a few projects. We've got some deterministic information about the target, finish date, and cost, right? And now on the right side, we begin to see things around the risk profile and top risk and the impact. Well, that risk profile can indicate just a general trend, right? Kind of what you see there is just overall, how is the project schedule and cost risk trending? And then for the top risk, what we're looking at is what is the top risk that team has identified on that project, and what's the quantitative impact, right? So we've taken that qualitative, run an analysis with it, and now we have a quantitative impact that we can then communicate up, right? Much easier, much more clear to talk about a clear schedule and cost impact than just kind of a very high medium risk impact, right? So let's take a closer look at that. So if we drill in and take a closer look, what we're actually able to see is what are the top 5 risks, right? It could be top 5, it could be top 10, but already we've got a lot more detailed information about what is driving that schedule and cost risk profile trend over on the left. And so we begin to see, well, what are the top risks that are impacting this project? Thinking more about that risk profile, we can drill into that and begin to see a risk trend, right? So one of the things many advanced and mature organizations are striving to do is begin to integrate the risk analysis process as part of their overall project management process. That means it's not just enough anymore to do a risk analysis up front to set the initial contingency or to do an initial risk assessment. They really want to move towards doing a periodic risk assessment and schedule risk analysis. When you do that, you can begin to create charts just like this, right? So this is the result of the risk analysis over time. Very powerful insight, because now we're beginning to see overall, are we doing a good job managing the risk? And are we doing a good job managing the risk over time, right? We see here in the last few analyses that there's been a major schedule change. I mean, that came as a result of a change order, or maybe the team identified something that needs to be modified, and so there's been a schedule change. As a result, the overall risk range has kind of widened up. We're seeing here the deterministic or the plan date versus the P20 and the P80 date, right? That's kind of what we're looking at here. And so we're seeing that risk has gotten greater, right? So based on the schedule changes, we've identified some additional risk, and now there's greater risk in a project. And that kind of coincides with what we saw on the previous dashboard. Now, the question is, well, what should this graph look like, right? Here's an example in time. Well, kind of fast forwarding, what we'd expect to see is something like this, right? Where all 3 of those dates begin to converge. The convergence of those 3 dates represents that the team and the project itself has begun to manage risk overall and begun to reduce the risk and uncertainty in the project and work towards that deterministic completion date, right? So now every chart may not look like this, there's some variations, but in the end, what you want to see is that the risk is being reduced over time and converging and merging towards that deterministic finish date.